Yadada, yadada, hine mato. Yanana, yanana, imanayim. Yanana, yanana, shevet achim. Shevet achim, gam yachad. Yanana, yanana, hine mato. Yanana, yanana, hine mato. Yanana, yanana, yumanayim. Yanana, yanana, imanayim. Yanana, yanana, shevet achim. Yanana, yanana, shevet achim. Shevet achim, gam yachad. Let's light up the world, oh brothers and sisters, together with peace and love. Bring light to the world, oh sisters and brothers, and sing Hine Matov. Yanana, yanana, Hine Matov. Yanana, yanana, Hine Matov. Yanana, yanana, Yumanayim. Yanana, yanana, Yumanayim. Yanana, yanana, shevet achim. Yanana, yanana, shevet achim. Shevet achim, gam yachad. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, Cantor.
Shabbat shalom.
It is wonderful to be with you. It is wonderful for our prayer to be back in this space and beaming out to all the other spaces that it is beaming out to. It is a real blessing to be together, even virtually. We are so glad to have the opportunity to be back in our sanctuary, as I said, to be tuned in. Some of you are tuned in on the sanctuary live stream, which is a bit of a change. If I was going to say, if you're looking for it, that's how to find it. But if you're looking for it, that message isn't much help. And if you've not had a chance to introduce yourself on the chat box on our website or in the chat on Facebook, we'd love for you to do that. If you're using our website, we'd encourage you to click on the gear next to the submit button where it'll invite you to write in your name, and that way we'll know who is saying hello. But please introduce yourself, say hi. And also our question for the evening, something we'd love for you to put in the chat is, what is a blessing in your life? This week's Torah portion is all about blessings and curses, and we'd love to hear what is a blessing in your life, either on our website or on our Facebook chat. And now we're going to take a moment to wish each other Shabbat Shalom with whoever you are in the room with, or send a text to someone and send them a Shabbat Shalom. But let's take just a moment for wishing each other good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And we are particularly excited to get to celebrate this Shabbat this weekend with Avi Hayon and her family as she celebrates tomorrow morning becoming a bat mitzvah. And we are going to invite Avi and her parents and her sister up to light candles this Shabbat. We're going to be putting all of the prayers on the screen that you will need, but some of you are also following along in the flip book or in a prayer book, so we will call out page numbers. We begin on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We now welcome Shabbat with these words. Let us sing together, Lechu Neranana. Lechu Neranana. continue with Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20. And I have to say I am thankful for a blessing in my life, which is Philip Hall, who's here playing piano with us tonight. And just so nice to be back with you. And so we welcome Shabbat with the words Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'diburecha, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, Hashem hu tiferet v'nitila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Likrat Shabbat lecho v'necha, ki mekor ha'aracha, merosh mikedem hanesucha, sof ha'aseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Hitorei, hitorei, ki ba'orech u'mi'ori, uri uri shir daveri, kivod Adonai alayich nikra. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. We now rise and face the entrance of whatever room we are in to welcome in Shabbat like a bride. Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emunei ham segula. Bo'i chala, bo'i chala. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekavela.
We continue with Baruch Hu on page 28. If you are not already standing, I invite you please to rise in body or in spirit. Page 28.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yada lai lai lai, 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 yada lai lai lai. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch
The Ma'ariv Aravim is a prayer about the last light of the day sinking away. And tonight for our Ma'ariv Aravim, I wanted to share with you a poem called The Fire by Franz Wright, which is about the feeling of the warmth of sun on your skin. And it goes like this. Listen, I've light in my eyes and on my skin, the warmth of a star, so strange is this that I can barely comprehend it. I think I'll lift my face to it, and then I lift my face and don't even know how this is done. And everything alive, and everything's alive, is turning into something else as at the heart of some annihilating, or is it creating fire that's burning unseeably, always burning at such speeds as eyes cannot detect? Just try to observe your own face growing old in the mirror, or is it beginning to be born? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, be'orech yameinu. Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta is on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta ba'am, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha b'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, uv'shartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when, to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. Then you live in our hearts, and we, through our righteousness, behold your presence. Michamocha, page 40. Many of those watching, and certainly those in the room, have heard me speak before about my mother and her practice of gratitude. My mother used to say that she would count her blessings at night instead of sheep, and that helped her to fall asleep not only quickly, but at peace. And we asked you in the chat, and I hope you are taking us up on the offer to write things that are blessings in your life in the chat. This week's Torah portion has a ceremony you'll hear a little bit about later and a lot more about tomorrow morning, where the Israelites are supposed to stand on two mountains and shout blessings and curses at each other. And the truth of life, I think, is wrapped up in that moment, which is that we don't get to choose just one or the other. Life is full of blessings and curses constantly firing at us from all directions. But we can choose what we attend to. We can choose what we notice. We can choose what we revel in. We can choose what we thank God for. We can live in the curses, in the struggle, in the difficulty, or we can choose to count our blessings like sheep at night and let them help us put ourselves to sleep at peace. We offer now a prayer for sleeping peacefully. Hashkivenu, page 44. Keep sharing your blessings with us.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim. May you shelter us in peace until the morning comes. May you lay us down with love, and may you raise us up. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim.
We continue now with the Amidah, which begins on page 46. It is my honor to invite up Avi Hayon to lead us in prayer. Page 46, please rise as you are able.
Adonai, Sephatai Tiftach, Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasteavot v'imahot, V'mevi Geula livnei v'nechem, L'man Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechaker chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rafech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot umido melach. Melech mamit umechaye umatmiach Yeshua. Beneman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelu ha'selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
Yasher Koach. We continue on page 59. Join me in praying these words on your screen or on the page. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lahodot. We continue with Shalom Rav on page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam V'tov beinecha livarech et Amcha Yisrael B'chol עת ובחושך בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. You may be seated. We continue now with a moment of silent prayer. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
From a prayer about shalom to a prayer about shlemut, our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing and wholeness. We think about all those in our lives, all those in our community, all those in our world who are in need of healing and strength. We think not only of those who are sick, but also those who struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain. We think about those who struggle with depression and anxiety, those who struggle with addiction, and those who are in recovery. We think of the people whose pains we can see and know, and the people whose pains we can never know. For all those, we offer a prayer for healing, comfort, and shlemut. This evening we are thinking in particular of David Askenaz, Marcia Block, Bradley Borden, Carol Brush, Melba Berman, Jennifer Carey, Michelle Cohen, Miles Cohn, David Kottner, Richard Dana, Ann Graubart, Vicki Greenberg, Jerry Hooks, Sarah James, Lawrence Levy, Edward Simmons, Angelica Taylor, Diane T.S., Marcia Tushita, Milton Wagner, Roger Williams, Chaim Leibish Vevel Ben Sheva, Gelka Nechama Bat Leba Chaya, Pates Bat Daisy Nathan, and all who are struggling with illness, physical, emotional, and in pain. We offer these words of wholeness.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
As we mentioned last week, one of the many benefits of being back in the sanctuary is that it's also an opportunity to go back to a beloved tradition of this congregation, which is offering some folks blessings. And this Friday evening, I have the unique honor to offer Ellen and Marty Grayboys an anniversary blessing, because on Sunday, they are celebrating their 56th wedding anniversary. They are hopefully watching and hopefully schmuggled up together somewhere, and hopefully able to feel the warmth that we are sending them. My wife and I are observing our 10th, we have our 10th wedding anniversary tomorrow. So if you have any advice that you can put in the chat for how we get all the way to 56 years, I would really appreciate it. And I'm sure there are other people watching who would as well, but what an incredible blessing. You are folks who are long time members of this congregation, who are so incredibly important to our community and who offer so much to us, and certainly are a beacon of love and light and life with the way that you love each other and have done for so long. And we are all blessed to get to bask in that glow. So we offer these words of congratulations and mazel tov. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh mazel tov. You may kiss the bride. It won't be a public display of affection. A few brief announcements this Shabbat. First, it takes a village to make a live stream, and this week we are incredibly thankful to David and Nathan and Troy, who are helping us to make this service go off without a hitch, I assume, so that you all can see and experience it. And as Cantor mentioned, we are just so incredibly grateful also to have Philip here and get to hear his music in person. It's just, it's so much better than pre-recorded, so we are thrilled to have you live. A quick logistical note, there is no chapel service offered this week because we all want to be together to celebrate with the Hayons. So we hope that you will join us tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. after Torah study for in this chapel live stream. Basically, if you're watching this now, that's how you'll watch it tomorrow morning as we celebrate Avi's bat mitzvah. We are so excited to share that Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo will be joining our program director Jason Plotkin on Sunday for this week's installment of his Conversations series. Judge Hidalgo will talk about implicit bias and racism, and also about voter engagement and how we'll have a legal, safe, and fair election in November. These are both pillars of our social justice work this year and as a congregation, and she will also be answering questions that were submitted by congregants. So we hope you will tune in at noon on our Facebook page or the Proler Chapel streaming page on our website. We hope you'll also join us for a fun-filled night of trivia this Sunday at 7 p.m. Pre-registration is required. More information on how to join us can be found on our website. The goal is to dethrone the Silk family who won the last trivia night. So if you think you can stand a chance against them, please sign up. And lastly, we want to remind you that our clergy team and staff are here for you now and always. If you need pastoral support or assistance from a member of our staff, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can lend a helping hand.
Okay.
Please.
I just wanted to announce that my mic fell off. We are starting a class for Elul, the month that leads up to the High Holy Days. And the class will begin this Thursday at 12:30. It's a lunch and learn. You do need to pre-register. You can come to one class or you can come to each class, which are in the weeks leading up to Rosh Hashanah. So we hope that you'll join us.
We need to talk about the 1910 Manchurian plague. Manchuria was a contested territory. Russia, China, and Japan all laid claim to it. It was called the Cockpit of Asia. And then in 1910, it became the site of an incredibly deadly plague. The mortality rate was so high that 95% or more of those who were infected died within just a few days. According to medical anthropologist Christos Linteris, what made this plague unique was that for the first time, a local outbreak was seen by the world. Newspapers published photos, and the entire globe was enthralled and terrified at this outbreak in Manchuria. At the time, mask wearing was not common practice. Masks had been used in clinical settings since the early 1890s, but they were not used by the general public even during a pandemic. Enter Dr. Wu Lien-te. He was a young, whiz-kid Chinese-Malaysian doctor. He had studied all over Europe, including being the first ethnic Chinese person to study at Cambridge. The Chinese government brought him in to lead their efforts against the plague. The more experienced doctors from Russia, Japan, Britain, and France were immediately dismissive of the 30-something doctor. But he was a brilliant physician, and he very quickly determined that the disease was a pneumonic plague, meaning it was airborne and spread through droplets. Everyone else was convinced it was spread by rats or fleas. Dr. Wu made a simple suggestion. We should start covering our faces with masks, both doctors and the public alike. He even invented a simple, cheap, disposable face mask that looks a lot like what we have today. The other more experienced doctors did not take kindly to this idea. One particular French doctor named Gerald Mesny refused to wear a mask and publicly shamed Wu in a particularly racist way. It was not long after that Mesny contracted the plague and sadly died. This vindicated Wu in front of all of his colleagues, and people started to listen and wear masks. And after just 7 months, they successfully put an end to the plague. Some of the practices that Dr. Wu advocated for, mask wearing, quarantining patients, and cutting off travel, are still a part of our epidemiological practices today. By the time the 1918 Spanish influenza epidemic came around, as Christos Linteris explains, this was a device that was globally recognized by doctors as well as the lay public as a necessary and efficient anti-contagion device, in large part because of the pictures they had seen from Manchuria a decade earlier. In America, mask wearing started to become more common. But when that pandemic ended in 1920, for much of the world, mask wearing among the general public fell into obscurity, except in China. Because of a series of subsequent plagues and outbreaks, the government regularly encouraged people to wear masks. It became a part of public health campaigns and propaganda. By the time the SARS epidemic hit China in 2002, the Chinese public had nearly 100 years of practice wearing masks. It had become fairly commonplace. When I lived in New York, I would regularly see Asian people walking through Manhattan wearing masks, and I used to wonder to myself, does this person really think all Americans are disease-ridden? I now understand that people in China wear masks not only when there's an outbreak of something, but to protect other people when they have a cold, or when the pollution is bad, or when it's cold outside, and nobody looks at them strangely. In Chinese culture, unlike American culture, masks are not controversial. They're just a part of what people do to protect themselves and other people. Every day, even when we're not in the midst of a global pandemic, people in other parts of the world make the choice to wear masks. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Re'eh, is also about choices. In it, Moses describes for the people a strange ritual. When they get to the Promised Land, they will go to a place where there are these two particular mountains with a valley in between. Half the Israelite tribes will stand on one mountain and half will stand on the other, and the priests will stand in between. There they will vividly enact the choice set in front of all human beings. The priests will shout blessings at one mountain, the blessings that will come if they choose to follow God. And at the other mountain, they will shout curses that come from disobeying God. And in this way, all Israel will come to know the stakes of their choices. If you want to hear a beautiful teaching on this ritual and what it can tell us about humanity and robots, you have to tune in tomorrow morning when Avi will be our teacher of Torah. Maimonides says that the ritual of the two mountains is there to teach us that we have free will. The power is in your hand, says Maimonides, and whatever human activity humans may be inclined to do, they have the free will to elect good or evil. The Torah makes clear that free will is the essence of the Jewish view of the relationship with the divine. Humans are not the playthings of the gods. We are not destined or fated. We are not inclined only toward sin and commanded to resist that inclination. Rather, in every moment, we stand between those mountains. See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your offspring may live. This, explains Rambam, is freedom. Were we not free, it would not be a choice. The lessons that Moses teaches is that in every moment we have the freedom to choose. It is precisely because we have the option to choose the wrong way of living that choosing the right path is such a moral imperative. God grants human beings free will, but it is not a freedom to do anything, rather a freedom to do something, to choose blessing, to choose life. Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks says that Deuteronomy's vision of freedom is unique because it is a freedom for a whole society. We do not stand at the mountain only as individuals, but as part of a collective. And our whole society is given that choice. And what is the choice that God demands of us as an individual and as society? That we choose justice. We are commanded, as Rabbi Sacks says, to feed the poor and bring the orphan and the widow and the landless Levite and the non-Israelite stranger into our midst, sharing our celebrations and our days of rest. We have been commanded to create a just society that honors human dignity and freedom. This is the freedom of Deuteronomy, the freedom of collective responsibility. The tradition teaches all Israel is responsible for one another. Because of our freedom, we are each responsible, and together we are all responsible. When we stand there at the mountain, radical in our equality, looking down on the priests in the valley below, we are reminded that the failure of our leaders is not a sufficient excuse for injustice. We hold the power, we hold the high ground. We and they make the choice collectively, together. As Rabbi Sacks says, quoting from the book of Joshua, the fate of all Israel depends on the response of Israel, all Israel, from the heads of your tribes, your elders and your officers, to your hewers of wood and your drawers of water. In America, we love to talk about freedom. No time in recent memory has that discourse been louder than the debate over wearing masks. Those opposed to wearing masks decry them as government oppression and infringement on their individual liberty, their right to walk about with their face unbridled by fabric. This is also nothing new. In 1919, during the Spanish flu pandemic, a group calling themselves the Sanitary Spartacans started an anti-mask league in San Francisco. The city had passed its first mask ordinance in October of the previous year. At first, there was widespread cooperation with these orders, but then people began to protest. Hundreds were arrested and jailed for non-compliance. At one point, a blacksmith named James Weiser refused to wear a mask and stood on a street corner to convince others to take off theirs. And the health inspector, Henry D. Miller, attempted to reprimand him, and Weiser assaulted him and knocked him to the ground. In a daze, Miller shot the protester and 2 bystanders. Though nobody was killed, both men were arrested. Sound familiar? Nary a day goes by without hearing a story of a minimum wage employee at a grocery store being berated or spit on by someone who has defined freedom to mean freedom from masks. In May, 3 members of a family were charged with murder at a shooting of a security guard at a dollar store in Michigan simply because he asked them to put on their masks. An Ohio state legislator recently posted on Facebook saying, "This is the greatest nation on earth, founded on Judeo-Christian principles. One of those principles is that we are all created in the image and likeness of God. That image is seen most by our face. I will not wear a mask." No one is stopping anybody from wearing a face mask, but quite frankly, everyone else's freedom ends at the tip of my nose, he said. You are not going to tell me what to do, and there's a lot of people that feel that way. This is the American definition of freedom. It is a freedom from government intrusion, freedom from oppression, freedom to live without judgment. This is the freedom of give me liberty or give me death. This is not a sermon about whether masks help prevent the spread of coronavirus, which they do. This is not a sermon about whether I think we should all wear masks, which I obviously do. This is not a sermon about whether government has the power to compel someone to wear a mask, which is well beyond my area of expertise. This is a sermon about what we do with our freedom. Because in Judaism, we don't speak about freedom from, we speak about freedom to. Freedom to live a life of compassion for your neighbor. Freedom to live with humility and mercy. Freedom to choose blessing for yourself and others. If American freedom is defined by give me liberty or give me death, Jewish freedom is God gave me liberty. I must choose life. The Israelites are freed from Egypt and go directly to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. But they do not trade one slavery for another. Rather, at Sinai, they learn the responsibility that comes with freedom. It is a vision we have never fully achieved, an obligation to which we are always striving. As Rabbi Sachs concludes, God has given us freedom. Let us use it to create a just, generous, gracious society. God does not do it for us, but God has taught us how it is done. And as Moses said, the choice is ours. Be safe, be healthy, be kind and compassionate, and wear your mask. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Aleinu. We invite you please to rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, life and death. We take a few quiet moments for memory. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who have died in this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Our heart goes out in sympathy to the family of Stuart Grossman, who was laid to rest in recent days. Additionally, we recall the memories of the art sites of Adele Adato, Marcia Saltzman-Balin, Rebecca Barron, Lila Feldman-Berkson, Ellen Lisa Bonus, Toba Baxbaum, Milton Kaplan, Rose Carroll, Barry Chesney, Ben Cohen, Donna Cohen, Ben Cohn, J.M. Cohn, David Collins, Laura Polly Daly, Ann Edsel, David Robert Dochin, Ruth Eisenstadt, Betty Jean Ariston, Ronald Farr, Alexander Fastow, Ruth Filigrease, Abraham Frankel, Lee Silverman Freed, Kay Linda Freedom, Irene Ragnar Frauds, Sadie Gertz, Irving Giddis, Ella Glanks, Irving Gold, Julian Goldberg, Emmanuel Gordon, Harry H. Gordon, Louis Haberman, Jack Kamen, Louis H. Kasner, Irv Kaufman, Joy Crone, Avram Roseberg, Morris Lesser, Abe B. Levinson, Philip Lewis, Mina Littman, Gloria Lynn, Ben A. Matuzzi, Harry H. May, Carol D.D. Mayer, Mildred Peskin Michael, Francisca Orozco, Blanche Celia Paul, Marvin Curtis Pelham, Aaron Perlmutter, Joel Pittman, Ben Proler, Claire Estelle Reingold, Jeannie Reinhardt, Lawrence Rifkin, Zelda Robinson, Zach Emmanuel Rosen, William Rosenthal, Rose Sachs, Carolyn Samuels, George Schnitzer Sr., Greg Siegel, Bertha Davis Simon, Irene Snyder, Fillmore M. Sondock, Pauline Elizabeth Spear, Pauline Esther Spitz, Dovie Stallero, Liab Stallero, Louis W. Tarnopol, Dave Tashnik, Sura Volger, Minnie Engler Waldman, Mason Locke Weems, Shirley Weingarten, Eleanor Weisbaum, Samuel Weiss, W. Ward White, Raymond B. Wolfe, and Jeannie Zimmerman, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. We rise together as one community for the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirteh ve'amich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'galal v'zman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dikudsha brichu, le'ela mimkol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'ne'emata, damiram be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
We now joyfully move from Kaddish to Kiddush as we invite up Avi and her parents, Oren and Julie, and her sister Noah to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kadeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And a little motzi over what I am told is maybe a chocolate challah. Is that true? Oh man, what I wouldn't give for a bite of that. If they weren't here in this glass box. All right, go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Te'avon. As the family enjoys their chocolate challah and doesn't share with us for safety reasons, that's pretty upsetting, and takes their seat. We are closing song this evening was the song specially commissioned in our anniversary year for the congregation, the lyrics to which were co-written by the bat mitzvah's father.
I will do justice, speak up for those who are not free, like Abraham and Sarah, their words still speak in me. I will love mercy and the neighbor by my side, like Moses taught our people as he led us through the night. Ki masot mishpat ve'avat chesed ve'atznei עם אלוהיך, כי מעשות משפט ואהבת חסד, ויצנע לכת עם אלוהיך. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
I invite you please to rise for the closing benediction. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, help us to revel in all of the blessings in our lives. Help us to see the blessings more than we see the curses, to enjoy them and to let them bring us joy. Help us to appreciate that most precious gift, that most precious blessing that you give us, the gift that is freedom, a freedom to choose who we will be, a freedom to be a light on the nations, and help us to revel not only in our freedom, but in the responsibility that it brings. Help us to be sources of light and blessing and truth in this world. We thank you, God, for all our many blessings as we say together, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly before Adonai. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly before Adonai. Shabbat Shalom.